Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're cutting through the noise, really getting into something that affects how a lot of us work every day. We're talking about technology updates, specifically from Apple, and how they might be, shaping the future of our daily work routines. Our guide for this is a really insightful article. It's called "The Ways Apple's Upcoming Improvements Can Improve the Way We Work." And it lays out some pretty specific ways the author thinks these new features could genuinely boost productivity, maybe change our workflows. So, our goal: let's unpack these specific points the article makes. Let's try to understand the why behind them, according to the author, and figure out what these changes could actually mean for your work life.
Yet right away, the article frames these updates not just as like new features on a list. It talks about making our work lives more fluid, focused, and effective across the whole Apple ecosystem.
Yeah.
The core idea seems to be optimizing productivity, collaboration, and even our personal well-being.
Fluid, focused, effective. Okay, that sounds like the author sees a kind of bigger strategy here. So, where should we start? Maybe with communication and collaboration. That's where a lot of work happens. The article kicks off highlighting live translation. What's the main idea there, based on the piece?
Well, the article describes it as enabling seamless, real-time text and spoken communication across different languages. It's presented as a direct answer to, the challenges of working with global teams or customers.
Seamless real time.
Yeah. And the key benefit the author points to is dissolving barriers, not just translating words, but actually making the whole interaction smoother between languages.
Dissolving barriers, that's quite a claim, isn't it? It suggests it's more than just basic translation, maybe about
Well,
the flow.
exactly, making the flow feel more natural.
Okay, so beyond translation, the article also talks about handling phone calls, which, let's face it, can be a major interruption. What does it say there?
It points to something called intelligent call management features.
Mhm.
And the specific thing mentioned is the ability to screen unwanted sales and marketing calls.
Ah, yes. Preserving that precious focus time, as the article nicely puts it. We could all use more of that.
Totally. And it connects this with improved integration of iPhone calls within macOS. So the author argues that together these things give us, and this is their phrase, unprecedented control over distractions. Basically, making sure your Mac stays a zone for deep work while, important calls still get handled properly, with grace, is how they put it.
Unprecedented control. Handling with grace. I mean, you can already take calls on a Mac, but this sounds like the author thinks it's a real step up in managing interruptions better. The article also mentions contact posters. What's the deal with those, according to the source?
Right, the expanded use of contact posters, think of them as like richer visual caller IDs,
Yeah.
highly personalized visuals that show up when you call someone. The author suggests this promises richer, more personalized interactions.
Huh. So a bit more personality beyond just the name. Interesting touch. All right, let's shift gears a bit. From communication to actually doing the work. Multitasking, maybe using different devices. The article seems to put a lot of emphasis on the iPad here. This bit sounds really interesting. What's the piece saying about the iPad's role?
Yeah, this is definitely a key point in the article. It talks about iPad's new window adjustments, resizing, and app options.
Hmm.
And he claims these will elevate it into a formidable multitasking machine. The author specifically says it's blurring the lines with macOS capabilities.
Formidable multitasking machine. Blurring the lines. Wow, okay,
Yeah.
so the article really sees the iPad stepping up significantly.
It seems so. The implication is that tasks that maybe felt clunky or required a Mac before because of complex window stuff or app interactions
Yeah.
might become much smoother on the iPad now.
So potentially less need to constantly jump between an iPad and a Mac for certain workflows.
That seems to be the suggestion, yeah. Making the iPad potentially more viable for, say, heavier work when you're mobile or just prefer that device.
That could be a really big shift for how people use their iPads for work. And speaking of Macs, there's also a mention of Spotlight getting an upgrade.
Yes, just a quick note, but it points out that Spotlight on Mac receives a significant speed boost. The author highlights this, making file and shortcut access faster, which is especially good for keyboard-centric users, people who live by keyboard shortcuts and search.
Speed is definitely productivity, especially if you rely heavily on Spotlight. Okay, what about content creation? That's becoming part of more jobs now. Anything new there?
Yeah, there's a feature called local capture. The article says this enables high-quality video call recordings.
High quality recordings, and the author makes a specific point about why that's a big deal technically, right?
Exactly. It stresses the benefit of bypassing conferencing platform compression. You know how video call recordings from Zoom or Teams can sometimes look a bit
Fuzzy? Compressed?
Right, so bypassing that means the recording saved locally on your machine is much cleaner, much higher quality. The author calls this a major improvement for creating professional webinars, podcasts, and internal learning content. Basically, getting a better source file to work with later.
Okay, so it's about the quality of the raw recording for editing. Makes perfect sense for anyone doing that kind of work.
Yeah.
What about just capturing quick ideas, staying organized day to day? What does the article mention about notes?
It highlights the Notes app on Apple Watch. The significance, according to the author, is being able to capture those fleeting thoughts and reminders instantly from your wrist. No need to grab your phone.
Instant capture from the wrist. Yeah, I can see that being handy for those aha moments when you're like walking around. And the journal app, the article says that's expanding too.
Correct. It notes the Journal app expanding to Macs and iPads. The author positions this as creating a powerful cross-device tool. For what? For reflection, logging, learning, and brainstorming. Kind of making it a more central place for your thoughts, whether personal or work-related, accessible everywhere.
Cross device is always good for keeping things flowing. Now, there was another point connecting notes and calls, one that sounded potentially game-changing for meetings.
Ah, yes, this is one the author seems really excited about. It's the ability to record calls directly into notes and transcribe conversations.
Record and transcribe right into notes.
Exactly. And the language the article uses here is pretty strong. It says this will revolutionize meeting efficiency and record keeping.
Revolutionize. Wow, that's a bold word. Why does the author think it's that big a deal? What's so revolutionary about having it in notes specifically?
Well, the implication seems to be the tight integration. You have the audio, you have the transcript, all right there within your meeting notes, presumably searchable, linkable. Instead of having, a separate audio file somewhere, maybe a separate transcription service, it's all in one place, captured seamlessly. The source suggests this fundamentally changes how you capture meeting info and follow up on it. Less manual work, more accurate records.
Okay, I can see how that could drastically cut down on the post-meeting busy work. What about just managing general tasks? Anything new with reminders?
Yeah, the article mentions Apple Reminders becomes even smarter. How?
Yeah.
With automatic categorization and follow-ups from emails and texts.
Automatic categorization and follow-ups from emails and texts. So reminders might scan your mail or messages and suggest things you need to do.
That seems to be the idea, yeah. Helping you catch action items or things you need to remember that came in through different channels, making sure less falls through the cracks.
That could be incredibly helpful for managing all the incoming stuff. Okay, lastly, the article touches on personal well-being, which isn't always linked directly to productivity features. How does it connect to these updates?
The author definitely links well-being to work effectiveness. One example given is Workout Buddy for colleague motivation.
Workout buddy. Like sharing fitness goals or progress with coworkers for accountability. Interesting social tie-in.
Right, kind of blending personal health goals with team support.
Anything else on well-being?
Yes, and this one feels very practical. Apple Maps proactively alerting us to commuting delays, reducing stress.
Ah, yeah. Getting a heads up about traffic before you're stuck in it, definitely less stressful. That absolutely impacts how your workday starts.
Exactly, less stress before you even sit down at your desk.
Okay, so if we kind of pull all this together, the article covers a lot. Communication tools, focus features, multitasking improvements, especially on iPad, content creation quality, smarter ways to capture notes and ideas, better task management, and even these well-being aspects.
And the piece wraps up by saying that all these enhancements, viewed collectively, underscore Apple's commitment to a more integrated, intelligent, and human-centric approach to productivity.
Integrated, intelligent, human-centric, those feel like the key takeaways from the author's perspective. It's not just a random collection of features, but steps towards a particular vision for how work should feel, less fragmented maybe, more supportive.
That seems to be the argument, yes.
So for you listening, as you think about your own day-to-day work and you hear about these specific things the article highlights, things like live translation for easier global chat or the smarter call screening protecting your focus, maybe the iPad becoming more of a workhorse, or that idea of recording and transcribing calls right into notes, or reminders pulling tasks from your emails, even just avoiding commute stress.
If we tie that back to the article's bigger picture, this vision of integrated, intelligent tools trying to free up focus and reduce friction, it really leads to a practical question, doesn't it? based purely on what this article suggests, what part of your current workday, what specific task, or maybe daily frustration seems like it might actually be simplified or automated or maybe even become unnecessary if these kinds of updates land the way the author envisions?
Definitely some interesting food for thought there as you consider how these potential changes described in this source might play out in your own work life. Thanks for diving deep into this article with us today.